Hello, friends, and welcome to Adobe Life. My name is Julia Masalska, and I'm very delighted to have an amazing guest today. Her name is Niege Borges, and she's an amazing illustrator and graphic designer from Brazil, now based in Brooklyn, New York. And she has worked for clients like Instagram, Apple, Teen Vogue, and Sephora. You might recognize some of her work. Very warm welcome, Niege. Say hi.
Hi, Julia. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us in the chat. We have Francisco, we have Nourish here, we have Clever and Cody. Awesome. Let us know where you all are tuning in from. And if you're joining us from YouTube, make sure to head over to be.net/live. This is where you can ask Niege some questions and also follow along during the process. And if you kind of want to work along, feel free to do that as well. This is a really great platform if you want to learn Illustrator, Photoshop, or any of the Adobe apps. In this stream, we're going to be working, or Niege is going to be working in Illustrator and then jump into Photoshop. And it's a 2-day stream. So tomorrow will be part 2 of this stream with her. So I'm super, super excited for some illustration. Niege, give us a little intro about yourself, a little bit of a background, and tell us what we're going to be working with.
Cool. Yeah, so I've been working as a freelancer for a bunch of years now, and I do graphic design work, but my main focus is illustration. And yeah, I do a lot of illustrations for advertising and for social media and a lot of like web stuff. And today I'm going to create a portrait. My work is very inspired by fashion, so it's going to be like a kind of like fashion inspired portrait. And we're going to also place this portrait into like a fake magazine cover, which yeah, I'm just going to create like a little fake magazine cover very quickly, I guess. That's it, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, let's take a look at some of Niege's work. Niege, do you mind kind of showing us a little bit, maybe on your Instagram or your website, whatever you prefer, so that we kind of get a little bit of an insight of what your style is, and just people to get a little intro about what you actually do.
Yeah, for sure. So here is my Instagram. These are some of my most recent works. Like this, for example, is like some illustrations that I'm doing for Teen Vogue, for the horoscope. This is a cool cover that I did for Vogue Brazil, like for a digital edition of the magazine, which was super cool.
Awesome. I love it. I love the way you kind of play with color and like the color contrast that you are kind of implementing. Do you have any like favorite works that kind of stands out that you can share with us?
Favorite work, let me see. Well, recent one, I really like this horse series that I've been working on. This is like just a personal work, but like I'm really having fun drawing these women riding horses. I really like the Vogue cover that I just showed. Let me see what I have more.
I also saw that you actually painted it in real life, right?
Yeah, I also paint. I do oil painting, like his one, for example, that I did last year. I really like painting. It's just like a good way of spending some time off screen. And yeah, and my oil painting work is kind of similar to what I do digitally, but it's different because you get to explore more stuff, you know. Um,
Awesome.
let's see.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure it also inspires each other. So like you're probably like your painting work inspires your digital work, right? Is there a connection?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that you start like noticing and discovering new things when you're painting on canvas or on paper, and then you go to work on the screen. You take some things that you learned there, and vice versa. I think so. This is one of my favorite works, I guess, that I did for Havaianas, which is like a Brazilian brand. They make these flip flops, and I did this cool illustration, and the theme was love. So it was very, I had a lot of creative freedom, and I basically just could include like people, you know, kissing and hugging and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, this was a very cool project, and yeah, the only things that they told me is that I needed to include the flip flops, of course, and the color red and love. So it was super cool.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And we have some people joining us in the chat. We have Jenny joining us from Virginia. We have Tiana from Toronto, Canada. We have Bruna from Italy. Awesome. And we have Neva here from Brazil as well. So awesome. And also Sajal is saying he's from India. Awesome. And Nourish is saying your work is so colorful and inspiring. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree. I really love it. And I'm so, so excited to see what we're going to learn today. So should we
Cool.
jump right into it?
Yeah.
And let's do it.
Cool. So yeah, like um I put together like some references that I took from this one. For example, I took from Adobe stock, and I use references just to like, sometimes if the project requires, I'm going to make the illustration like look like the person, but for this one today, I'm just going to illustrate whatever. I'm using the photos as a reference, but I'm not going to make the drawing look like this woman specifically. I just like to play around with it sometimes. But of course, if the project was to make like an actual portrait, I would make it look like her.
Awesome. And is that your usual kind of way to start? Do you usually start with some inspirational images, or do you sometimes just start from scratch, just like from your imagination?
No, I usually use images. I sometimes I have an idea, and then um I search images based on that. But I usually, you know, need to have some images to help me out a little.
Awesome. Cool. And we have Karina from Brazil living in LA. Awesome. And Lisette is joining us from the Netherlands. We have people from all over the place here. That's
Awesome.
awesome. So cool. Yeah, I love that. So do you usually like I just want to like know a little bit more about the process, and
Mhm.
also feel free in the chat if you have questions, feel free to put them into the chat box, and Niege is going to be, or we're going to try to answer those and show you some things if along the way if you have any questions. So yeah, so is that like the usual case scenario that you start with the brush tool, and then kind of jump into Photoshop to paint on top of that, or like what's your regular process?
Yeah, like I think this is not very usual, I guess. I like to sketch on Illustrator. I know that a lot of people like to sketch on Photoshop because it gives you like a more like better feel of like an actual pencil. But I actually like to sketch on Illustrator, and I almost always do that because I can like play around with the strokes, and I can like pull, you know, like can change things easily, I think, you know. So if I have like some freedom, I on the project, like I want to like be able to to play around with the strokes and see what I can take from that, you know.
Awesome.
And then yeah, usually I go to Photoshop after. So yeah, usually I do that.
Cool. And so thinking about work with clients, do you early sketches, or do you submit like ready illustrations for them?
No, usually I send sketches. So usually I sketch on Illustrator, and then I send that to them. Like I usually make rough sketches, or depending, I make more finished, like polished sketches. And then I also send the color palette to make sure that we are on the same page about color also. And then I proceed finishing the illustrations on Photoshop, and yeah, we take it from there.
And we have another Brazilian in the house, Carlos Bacai is joining us. I was streaming with him. He's also an amazing graphic designer.
I know Carlos. Hi, Carlos.
Yeah. So he's saying so good. Loving your work. Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Carlos. Cool. And we have Sarita joining us from Yorkton, Saskatchewan. Love your work, Niege.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm always mispronouncing things.
No worries.
Cool.
Yeah,
and
my
Brittany,
name is a tough one.
Yeah, I guess like if you know someone with the same name, you already know how to pronounce it, right?
Yeah.
Like it. Yeah.
Yeah. I never met another Niege like in person, just on the internet. Like that other Nieges like added me online, like in the early internet times. Like, hey.
Hey, we have the same name.
Yeah, that's about it.
Is that a typical Brazilian name?
No. No, it just my parents just pick it up, I guess, but it's not common. But
it sounds very French.
Yeah, it does sound French, but I think that there's no in French as neige is a little different, right? So not quite the same. But at least like I was used to people like not knowing how to say my name in Brazil, and then here in the US is the same. So I'm used to it.
Yeah, and it's so funny because my name actually sounds different in different countries. So where I'm from, the Ukraine, they say Yulia. And for example, in like Hispanic countries, Latin America, they would say Julia. And in the US, they would say Julia. So it's always different depending on the place.
Yeah, and in Brazil we just say Julia.
Julia, yeah. Even that sounds a little bit different.
Yeah, it's more like
yeah, like the French, and I guess probably also Portuguese kind of way to pronounce a J.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, we have some good questions coming in. So Jenny's asking, I would love to know how you went from beginner illustrator to the cover of to covers of whatever covers you made, but how was the process of like learning illustration like that?
I always liked to draw, so I was always drawing on my free time for a long time. But I guess I improved by like observing other people's work and just studying art by myself at home and stuff like that. I mean, I went to school for graphic design. So yeah, I guess really like studying and putting a lot of practice. And I worked as a graphic designer, and I still do. So within time, my style started to like evolve, and then yeah, I guess. I guess what she wants to know is also like, how do you get the clients, right? Because like you draw, and then like how do you get clients?
That would be my next question. We have a question here by Adriana. How is Niege making money with her art? Yeah, tell us about that, because I think it is important to make money with what you're doing, because if you can't make money with it, you can't sustain yourself, and you end up, just taking on a different kind of job that will take you away from what you're actually doing. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about how you actually make money and, work with clients in general.
Yeah, so I make money like by working with like companies that hire me to do like advertising stuff, or like social media content, like, illustrations for the social media and stuff like that, or for the website, or for the for anything really corporate related. So yeah, I think clients that started finding me online. Behance actually is a great way to get clients. So
same here.
Yeah, a lot of clients find me on Behance, Instagram, of course. So yeah, I'm lucky that I was able to get hired by like a lot of awesome clients that actually pay me to draw. So super cool. And even like with my graphic design work also, like I was like getting hired to do graphic design stuff also through Behance, and my portfolio, my website, So yeah, I guess people just show up, or sometimes people recommend you, which is like, people always expect you that you have like a better answer than that, but it's true. Like people sometimes just get to you through recommendation.
Yeah. That's the best way, to be honest. I get many clients also, just making good work. Making good work is like the best way to advertise for yourself, right? If every project you take on and complete is better than the one before, and it's a project that you're proud of, and you put it out there, and the client is happy, that's the best way to do. You don't even have to do any other advertisement once you do that. So
yeah, for sure.
I always say that to my students. We're doing a lot of educational content stuff, and people who are just like starting out in their creative career or switching careers from other fields. It's always about, the quality of work you produce and the pride you take in your work, right? If it's something that you're proud of and you put it out there, people will see, they will see that energy and enthusiasm that was put into your work, right? And they will appreciate it, and they will see that you're really passionate about what you're doing, and they're more likely to hire you. So that's kind of like, I feel like the key to really getting hired without any advertisement and any cold emails or like reaching out to people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did reach out to people also in the past, speaking of which, like especially for my graphic design work. I did send emails to a few agencies, and from some you don't hear back, but from some you do hear back, and I did get hired for some stuff, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, definitely putting your best work is the most important, because then you get recommended and people, come back.
For sure. And how did you get in touch with like the Vogue team? Did they reach out to you, or was it one of the agencies that you worked with? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So Vogue Brazil, they contacted me. I did a work last year for for Glamour magazine, which is also like another fashion magazine, and they saw that, so they decided to reach out to me to do that illustration for the digital cover.
Okay, and let's go down the chain. How did you get in touch with the Glamour magazine?
Yeah, they found me. I don't know how they found me. Maybe Instagram, but yes, they found me, and then they hired me to do the super cool fashion editorial, because it was during lockdown, and then they wanted to have like a full fashion editorial, like illustrated, so they wouldn't like have to actually shoot pictures during the pandemic, and it was super cool to just like do a fashion editorial like that. Yeah,
that's cool. So that's very recent, right?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. And another question that we had, how long did it take you to get where you are at right now? So when did you start learning, and when did you feel like, you know, your work has been making money to you? Because I know every single one of us, I feel like, who starts off in the creative career, at first we're just kind of like working on the work to put out there, and then once we do that, we actually get paid work, right? So it's a process. So I wanted to know a little bit more about what's the timeline that it took you to actually learn all of this, and then when you started making money with your art.
Well, I graduated from college in 2011, and I was working at a agency in Brazil, and then at the same time I was working at this agency, I was also like doing freelance work as a graphic designer and illustrator. So from there, I started getting more freelance work. So I guess I was always making money, but I was making less money in the beginning. And then from then I started to like get more graphic design work, and then I went freelance full time. So I guess for a while now I've been making money all of my career. I never stopped making money, I guess, or didn't since I got my first job. But I guess I've been making more money as an illustrator only in the last 2 years, I would say, because I started to focus more on illustration and like more on my personal illustration style also, because before I was working as a graphic designer and an illustrator that also but I was making like illustrations as the client needed. I would make like vector illustration, I would make like whatever they wanted. And then from some years, like 3 years, something like that, I started to like putting more of my personal work out there, like this is the style that I'm doing today. So I started to get more commissions with my personal aesthetics. So I think that's like my favorite moment of my career, because like I started to like
you can finally be yourself and make more money because people appreciate you for who you are, right?
Exactly. Yeah, people like they will pay also more if you have like a very like defined aesthetics. Yeah. So it is really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's such a highly discussed topic, especially like when I speak to young creatives, and I get the question a lot, should I develop my personal style or should I adapt to the clients? And I think it depends what you're doing. I feel like in illustration, you totally need your own style to be able to stand out. And all the illustrations, all the very talented illustrators that I see on Instagram, for example, or any social media, maybe even on Behance, everybody who is kind of like a renowned illustrator and is getting hired for the bigger projects usually has their own personal style that's very unique to them. And that's the style that people are kind of willing to pay more money for because they're looking for exactly that, right? Whereas thinking about branding and graphic design, there, I feel like it's more important to really adapt to the client's needs. And we have things like brand guidelines where you actually kind of have to adapt to what's given, let's say, and you don't have that much freedom anymore. So there, having your own creative or implementing your own creative style would not be very beneficial, right? So I feel like there is always this controversy, and in branding, I have realized, what I'm doing is actually I'm developing a unique style for each of my clients. Right. So
sure.
like you have a specific distinct feel to a brand, right? So in branding, it would be counterproductive to always implement the same exact style, because then the brands would not be able to stand out, right?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that is definitely important to like stand out and have like a unique style. I mean, I was happy to just, do follow brand guidelines and, make illustrations as needed. And I always like was able to put a little bit of myself also, because I think that's important too. Even if you're working like with clients' guidelines, you can all try to put a little bit of you in there, and that maybe is the reason that they hire you also to work on that. Because I don't know if you can like, if you have to draw some characters for a company, then you can like add some humor to the scene, or something like that. So I think that's important too. But yeah, definitely like having like a more unique style is really important and makes you really stand out. And yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. Another question we had in the chat is about your hardware. What are you using to draw right now, for example?
So I'm using a Wacom tablet. It's one of those very simple ones, the bamboo one. No, this one is the Intuos actually. I had a bamboo like before. This one is the Intuos, and I also have a Wacom Cintiq, which is like one of those fancy ones with a screen. But sometimes I don't feel like using that. So today I just feel like using the Intuos without a screen. So I'm just using that. And I'm using a MacBook Pro.
Awesome. Yeah, and you also are like into different other media except for technology, right? Or have you ever experimented with like 3D or maybe like augmented reality or something like that?
No, but I really would like that actually. Once I have some free time, I will try. I want to play with both of those. I think. I don't know, like 3D. I love 3D. I think it's awesome. I don't know if I'll have the time to learn it, but I would love to collaborate maybe with someone that knows 3D, and maybe we could create something together. But I really want to study at least a little, to learn to do some stuff. And augmented reality also, I really want to get into that. Yeah, but I have a list of things that I would like to learn.
One thing that I can I would love, I mean, your illustrations are so amazing. So I'm just like kind of like imagining. So we have something at Adobe that's called Adobe Aero, and there you can basically create from the layers that you paint, you can create a three-dimensionality between the layers. So basically what you do is you pull the layers apart in three-dimensional space, and then you can project that into your environment. It's actually very easy to do.
That sounds cool.
So then you can project that into your environment, and you can also make videos with that. So you can like go around. You probably have seen that
I've seen that
on
online,
Instagram. Yeah. So that's super fun. I recently played around with that. It's really, really easy. And you can even do that with like fresco sketches or your Photoshop file right now. So all you would have to do is just kind of like separate the artwork into different layers. And then in Adobe Aero on the desktop, you can then kind of like place the layers in 3D space. And it's super, super easy. So I would love to see something like that. And I would love for you to kind of experiment, or anybody. Let us know in the chat if you all have experimented with augmented reality and illustration or graphic design. Recently, what I also did was super fun as well. So I've created a series of posters, and then I've placed them into like my office space on like my wall. And I could imagine those posters as if they were actually like printed and glued to the wall in the proportion they are. And it's so cool to kind of see those things in real life.
That's awesome.
And same thing I also like to do with packaging. So when I'm designing packaging, I like to place it, let's say, on my desk, and then put my hand next to it and kind of imagine, let's say it's like a tube of cream, and how that kind of relates to my hand, and is like, what's the proportion? Is it even legible what I put on there? So it's super fun to experiment with.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to look into that.
Hi. Also, my friend Jana is here in the chat. Hi, good to see you. She's my childhood friend, actually, from very long ago.
Oh, that's nice.
Awesome. Gabriella is saying, I love Aero. It's so intuitive and fun. Yeah. And Gabriella actually recently did a stream on that, where she actually used Aero to create art in Photoshop, and then creating even animations and actions between those like elements, between those different layers. That was super cool.
Nice.
Awesome. Fairy saying, I'm not brave enough for AR, maybe someday. I feel like these days you don't really have to be brave enough anymore. You just open YouTube University of YouTube.
For sure, yeah. And if it's bad, you delete it.
Exactly. There is no
just play around.
Harm into trying.
Yeah.
Cool, Jenny. Yeah, that's what I'm saying all the time. I'm just saying cool. It's kind of like my space holder.
Oh, my cat just arrived to the desk.
Arrived to the workspace.
Yes.
Awesome.
Shakira, don't rub on the screen.
Shakira. Can she dance?
Yes.
Cats are awesome. Cats have so much character. It's so cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's quickly talk about the tools that you're using for your workflow right now. Can we go through the different things that you did, and the tools that you use the most? And I see you have a lot of like colored layers that you adjust depending on the flow of things.
Yes. Yeah, I just play around to see what can I do, what could I do differently, so I'm basically using the gouache detail brush. It's my favorite.
From Kyle's paint box. You can activate Kyle's brushes. It's a whole kit of different brushes that you can activate. And I think you have to go to brush settings or something, and then you can activate those brushes for free. So feel free to do that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. And so do you always, you adjust the size of the brush all the time, right? As well?
Yeah. I don't have any like preferences on that. I just adjust as I need, I guess. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it really depends on the project and on what I'm doing. Of course, if I'm working on a project drawing like multiple characters, I always keep it consistent, um, like same sizes and stuff. But right now, I'm just playing around, so I'm just, um, increasing and decreasing as needed, for details or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And every layer has its own color, or how do you organize the layers?
Usually, yes. Usually, each layer has its own colors, but sometimes I'm just going to just going to put details on one layer and then add multiple colors, there. Um, so, but usually, yeah, the separate according to the colors. So it's easier to edit if I need it, especially for client work, because they can ask for like color changes a lot. So I figure out it's like best to just make one layer for each color. And right now,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm basically kind of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also because, yeah, I just made a mistake there. And also because it's like easier to like change the color. Like right now, I'm still not set on her skin tone, so like I'm just still playing around.
Mm-hmm. And this one you had set to color overlay, right?
Yes.
When is that? When do you do that?
I'm just doing this to like change the whole color of the layer, right? So
Okay.
now I'm changing her skin to be a little more brown.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
Awesome. I like how you just like take colors that are not actually, you know, natural. They're not actually like natural skin tones, but it makes it look so interesting and brings so much character into it. And like thinking of like the reflection that you have on the nose, that teal one,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it brings so much more character into the portrait. And I'm always saying like you don't need to draw something perfectly photorealistic, right? Because
For sure.
photorealism, you might as well take a photo. Why would you spend all of your time? I don't know, it's just my opinion on photorealistic painting.
Mm-hmm.
But why would you spend all of your time if you can just take a photo of something? But here it's more about showing the character through the medium, right? Through your
Mm-hmm.
paint strokes and through the colors.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, photorealism. How do you say realism? I can't say it in English. Like
realism.
realism. Yeah,
I'm not perfect neither.
yeah, the
You're
M
learning
is
from the wrong person.
yeah, the ending on the M, like it's weird to me, but uh yeah, it's impressive. Yes, of course, but like at this point, like everyone has a camera on their pockets, right? So like I kind of don't see the point. Um
Yeah, same here.
and of course you can like uh what we were talking before, about having identity, like with realism you can't have that much of a identity, I think, like aesthetic, unless you do something really crazy and different. um
Mm-hmm.
I think that for not like being realistic, then you can just play around more with whatever.
Yeah. That's such an interesting conversation. And so I was also been meaning to ask you, are there any like artists that have inspired you in your like learning progress, or any artists that you really admire and love and find inspiring?
Yeah, there's a lot of people. I get inspired a lot by painters. I love to go to like museums and see in galleries and see like um, paintings. So like classics, like David Hockney, he's like a big inspiration for me. De Kooning is like very abstract, but I love his colors and it's a big inspiration too. What else? Keith Haring. More contemporary Jordan Castile. She's like a painter here she's based here in New York, and her work is amazing. She paints a lot of people from New York, and it's so cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Especially when you really experience that same environment and atmosphere, and then somebody puts it into painting. It's so like you can really breathe it, right? Because you can recognize it in your everyday life.
Yes,
so awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
One of my favorite artists ever is Jean-Michel Basquiat. Do you know him?
Yeah, I love Basquiat.
Yeah, Basquiat, I think, oh gosh. And also there is a movie about him, Downtown 81, and it's all about this like 80s culture, underground, like clubs and stuff, and like pop music and hip hop. And oh, it's just so interesting to kind of see this whole New York vibe during those times.
Oh yeah. I really
Amazing.
wish I could travel to that time period.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I was born in the wrong time period, right?
Yeah. I mean, they didn't have internet back then, so
Yeah, that's kind of
yeah.
like, yeah, we can take that from today to back
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, I need the internet. But I love to go to like stay for I don't know a while and then come back and then yeah, I
That
would
would be
love to
so
go.
cool.
Yeah.
Imagine in the future if there will be like ways to have this like virtual reality that you can travel to, and then you can experience all of these things. That would be so cool.
That would be really cool. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Oh man.
I wonder if you like, do you get robbed in
Yeah.
New York, like in this reality?
Yeah. And like the whole jazzy vibe, jazz culture.
Yeah.
And we have also Italo joining us from Brazil. We have so many Brazilians today. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks,
So
Brazilians.
cool. Yay.
Oi. Yeah, like since this is supposed to be like a magazine cover, if anyone has any ideas for a magazine title, because I don't. So
that's a good one. Yeah, let us know in the chat, what should this magazine be called?
Because I have no
And
idea.
Maybe it could be a fashion magazine, maybe it could be an art magazine, maybe it could be some kind of cultural magazine, whatever you think.
Yeah.
And when you suggest a name, please also let us know what type of magazine you think this could be. Awesome. Yes, Mayur is asking, what are we working on today? We're doing some illustration work, and we have started off in Illustrator with some sketches, and then we took them into Photoshop, and now working on the color painting. And this in the end will be a magazine cover. So yeah, suggest your names in the chat. Cool. Ferry's saying, I just stunned. She did a reverse thing, sketching in Illustrator, render in Photoshop. That's quite unique. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's so true. And I think, most of the illustrators who have their unique style also have their unique process of doing things. So they don't necessarily kind of repeat what they learned from elsewhere. They kind of develop their own thing, right? Their own way to create something.
Yeah. Yeah, you just after years of practice, I guess, you kind of like figure out what works best for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I found out that works for me. I barely played with Illustrator today, but sometimes I play a little more, especially if I'm doing like illustration of like a full body figure, then you get to play a lot more with like the body parts, move the arm a little and change, proportions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. We also have Camila joining us from Brazil as well.
Oh, I wondered if it's my best friend, Camila.
Camila Santiago.
No.
No, another
But
Camila.
hi, Camila, another Camila.
Awesome. Cool. Oh, Ferry's suggesting a name, A Cor da Cicade, the color of the town.
A Cor da Cidade. Yeah.
Cicade. I really love the
Cidade, yes.
Cidade. Oh, okay. Cidade.
Yeah, the city. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good name. Yes.
Yeah. And Ricardo is saying this can be the New Yorker magazine cover. The New Yorker?
Yeah, please, New Yorker, call me.
Okay, Brittany is saying bespoke art could be a name.
Okay, cool.
It's also interesting. What do you think about creating portfolio work for brands that already exist and pretending like, well, of course you mentioned that it's not actual work for that client, but just imagining your work in that in their kind of brand context. Do you think, is that something that you've tried, or do you think that's a good idea?
I didn't try that, but I think it's a great idea. Yeah, why not? I think it's a great way to like add stuff to your portfolio without, if you don't have client work yet. It's like a great way to also exercise and figure out what what you do and what works for you, and yeah, I think it's a great idea. Awesome. Of course, you have to put that it's personal work, but yeah,
exactly. But I think it's also a good way these days to kind of get the attention of the bigger brands to your work.
For sure, yeah.
Right? Once you kind of post that work and you tag them, for example, on Instagram, it might bring actually the attention to your work. And I know a lot of designers and artists who kind of reimagine the brand or design something for that specific brand just out of experiment and curiosity, that they actually then got in touch with them and got to do work for that brand. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
and
I love that.
We have Lucas here asking, do you need more Brazilians here? I'm assuming Lucas is also from Brazil. Awesome. And Camila Santiago is saying, Niege illustrated for Exam magazine. We love the results. She's amazing.
Oh, hi, Camila.
So Camila is here, I guess, from the magazine, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's the Camila from the magazine. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I just did the illustration for them.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. Jenny's suggesting the magazine name to be Perception.
Okay.
Perception magazine. Awesome. And we have a question by Nursh. At what moment do you know you finish your illustration or your artwork? That's a really good one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to you. You're gonna be probably the right person to answer this.
I mean, I guess it's hard to tell. I guess if it's a client work, I think it's a little easier to know when it's over, because you're like, oh, I think that they're going to like this, that's what they wanted, But if it's a personal work, it's a little more hard to tell, I guess, when it's over, because you have to be happy with it. And then if you're a little bit too hard on yourself like I am, that can be tricky. But I guess when you look at it and you're like, okay, I don't think there's anything else I would change. Or sometimes I'm just like, okay, just stop it and that's it. It really depends on the illustration, but usually when I look at it and I'm happy with it, basically.
And also with a client, you always have deadlines.
For sure, yeah. So that's just like
that's
yeah,
also another decision maker, at least in my case. It's like, okay, you have to be like, this is it, this is done.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a really, really awesome question. Oh, cool. So Italo is 17 years old and passionate about design. That's definitely a good age to start, I would say.
Yeah.
The earlier you start, the better.
Yeah.
And we also find that there are more and more, like I would say almost kids, like starting at an age maybe like 10 to 13, who get interested in technology and who get interested in like being at the computer and creating something. And I feel like that's kind of like more and more the kind of the trend, that the audience for programs like Photoshop or Illustrator is getting younger and younger, just because people start creating digitally so much younger.
Yeah. Yeah, this generation is so lucky to have so much content like this to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when I was 17, I also like just stay on the computer, like looking stuff online and like drawing also. But drawing, I guess, when I was 17, I think I'll do more on paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same here. Yeah, my mom sent me to like an art school when I was 6. So
Nice.
I started painting and like drawing really early.
Awesome.
And I think the earlier you start, the quicker you kind of really get to your personal style, and the better you actually are able to be flexible and not have that fear of doing something wrong. Because I feel like throughout our life, we get more and more, like from our environment, we get this idea of if you make a mistake, it's a bad thing, And so we are not as, let's say, life teaches us to not be as daring anymore, and that mistakes are not that good, But art and design is all about making a lot of mistakes until you are getting to a point where you can kind of see a potential in something, right? So it's really interesting that sometimes when you want to start designing or doing art at a like a later age, that you have to unlearn some of the things that you've been taught, unfortunately.
Yeah, when we are a kid, we have also less references, I guess, so the pressure is lower.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have less fear, less kind of, we don't feel intimidated as much by things. And we also don't know any like boundaries or any like, our mind is way more free when we're at a younger age, and then it gets more and more closed-minded, unfortunately, unless you keep the creativity going and really learn how to be creative and how to not kind of stop being creative. And Ricardo is saying, I'm 49 and I'm feeling the same. Yeah, it's all about unlearning. If you want to start learning art or design, you have to unlearn all your like restrictions first, and then it's a lot of hard work. And yeah, Cody, thanks so much for putting the link to Niege's Instagram. Make sure to follow her there and follow her work and check out her work. Get some inspiration. In the same way, also check out her Behance. You can also find our both Behances, our Behances in the info box. So feel free to follow us and ask questions, even in advance. I mean, even after the stream is what I meant. And we have Paulo here joining, saying, love your art, watching you here in Brazil. Awesome. That's so cool.
Many Brazilians. We are everywhere.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of Brazilian people through Instagram, actually.
Nice.
And I love the country. I think Brazil is amazing. It's an amazing country.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm going there on August.
Awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Your family is there, right? Or is your family? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I haven't been there since the pandemic, so I'm excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I haven't seen my parents since 2 years neither.
Oh.
My parents are in Germany though.
Oh, in Germany. Okay.
But I am going actually in a week.
Oh,
I'm so
awesome.
excited.
Yeah.
Yay. Super excited. Cool. Yes, Stephen is saying my entire career, the message has been mistake means fired. And Stephen works in IT. Yeah, it's unfortunately whenever we are kind of working for an employer and have someone kind of judge our work or give us feedback, not everybody knows how to give feedback. So instead of constructive criticism, sometimes we can get destructive criticism, which will just not help at all. So it's also good to when you're being employed to have someone who can really give you constructive feedback, like in terms of what can you improve and not this is wrong, this is bad, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's always good to exchange ideas with clients and or friends or whatever. Especially working as a freelancer and working like alone from home, is also so good like to hear like feedback that can teach you something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think feedback is a really good way to learn. You just need to know how to process it and which box to put it in. Some feedback is just not useful at all, so you just put it into the not useful box, right? Oh my gosh. Okay, so I want to get back to your illustration. Tell us what you're working on. I love those earrings, first of all.
Yeah, I'm trying to draw a tiny poodle here.
Oh, I love that.
Let's put a poodle on her earring.
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool.
With what magazine name do you think we should go?
So, also we had another suggestion by Lisette. Call it Braziliart. Then we had Perception.
Mm-hmm.
We had Bespoke Art.
Mm-hmm.
We had Acorda Cidade. Yeah, and we had I think that's about it.
I'm going to go with Acorda Cidade.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. Yeah. I love the sound of it, especially when you say it. Portuguese is such an amazing language. I really love the sound of it. But it's really hard to understand for me because although I know some Spanish, it's the sound of it is just so different that in like let's say the word cidade, right? You guys just pronounce it so that I don't even know how to write it. Like it just sounds so different from what you actually write. And Spanish is actually really, really easy because like there you write ciudad and you also read ciudad, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's like Portuguese sounds really amazing, but I think it might be a little bit harder to learn. Just like thinking of French. My God, French sounds so amazing, and when I read it, I can understand most of the things. But the sound, it's just like my mind is just like concentrating on the nice sounding of it instead of like understanding. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, very nice languages. I love that.
Yeah, Portuguese is very complex. I love it.
Yeah. It's good to have by nature or by like the place that you were born, knowing a specific language already. It's such an advantage, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you learn additional languages in school, and you're able to suddenly communicate with people who are from a different place, who have a different culture. It's so awesome. I love languages.
Yeah.
Cool. I love the color palette. Tell us a little bit more about how you choose the right colors for your work.
Yeah, I love to choose my colors, but I don't really have like a very specific process. Like for this one today, I started just let me see if I have the layers still here. Yes. With this painting just as a very, subtle inspiration for the color palette. But also like starting from her skin tone, I started to like, kind of be this shade of brown. So then I started to go from there, I guess, and see what would work with. And I just also already like have color combinations that I know I like and that will work. So like pink and green and yellow are like colors that I often use. So sometimes I use like I take from pictures or like from paintings like this one, and you can use you can just like grab the colors and play around with it and see if it works or not. But yeah, usually it really depends. I hate to be the person that just say it depends for everything, but it really depends on what I'm doing. But I think within time you also like just start having like an amount of like color palettes in your head that you know that you like to work with and that works. But if you're doing something for a specific project, then yeah, you need to like have references and a mood board and stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you find yourself using CC libraries at all?
To be honest, no. I don't use it a lot. I do save some color palettes that I of some clients, and stuff like that, but like I don't use the library very much.
What I like to do sometimes is, so for example, when I'm in a store and I see a product or anything that has like a really nice color palette, I use an app on my phone that's called Adobe Capture, and Capture can basically filter out colors from your live camera. So whatever you're pointing on, it extracts the colors from it and builds a color palette live. So even if you're moving around with the live camera on your phone, it will always show you like the specific main colors that it kind of by default filters out. But then you can still take a picture and you can move the little color samples and sample the color from the image as well. So you can even take a screenshot from any inspirational source, maybe, I don't know, Pinterest or anything like that, put it into Capture, and you can, Capture will create a color palette that you can then modify and kind of finalize, and you can save that to CC libraries. So I find myself getting inspirational color palettes or color tones that I see that I really love outside of outside of my office, and I save them to my CC libraries, and I have a library called Inspirations. Nice. So I save those colors there, and then whenever I work on a new project, I can source from those colors, and it's been so fun. And in the same way, you can even extract materials for 3D objects. through Adobe Capture.
Oh,
So you can point your camera, let's say, on a rock, and it will create that material for you that you can then apply to a 3D object in, let's say, Adobe Dimension.
that's
So
super cool.
technology is like, and I'm so lucky that I'm able to be part of all of these meetings where, you know, the Adobe people are discussing all of these things that are coming up and kind of staying on top of that. It's so cool, like what's happening. And I feel like, you know, I'm so lucky to have this insight of what things are kind of being developed or worked on. Yeah, it's so fun. I'm like really excited about technology.
Yeah, as you should. It's awesome also to be like updated on everything that is out there, as you are.
Yeah, it's so fun. We have so many resources and like so many ways to use the media. And there is like stuff like artificial intelligence and stuff like that. So have you ever tried in Photoshop the content aware fill?
Yes, I've tried that. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Like where the Sensei, so Sensei is the name of the artificial intelligence that Adobe is using. And so you can basically, it's a Sensei powered feature where Photoshop extends or like recognizes the content of an image and can, for example, extend your image with the content in it. And it's just crazy and scary, but also really interesting and like fun to play with.
That's cool.
Ferry saying, I rarely use capture because of each phone can pick a different types of color. It can change the original color of my reference that I want. Ferry, you can not only use the live camera. I know every camera is different and like the lighting conditions are always different, but you can also take images on your phone, or you can even take images from the internet and put them into capture and take out those colors. So it can even be, let's say you found an illustration and you love the color palette of that illustration. You can, for example, let's say you found the illustration on Pinterest. You can take a screenshot and put that into capture. So you don't necessarily need to use your live camera if you don't like it too much. So yeah, sometimes I find myself also doing that. But I think it's awesome. For example, let's say you're looking for like a autumn color palette, and then you go outside and you see all of these orange trees and the leaves on the floor. Or sometimes I go into the store and I see like a huge pile of different pumpkins, and then they all have different color tones. So you can take a picture of that and take those colors just to get that color mood, if that makes sense. So yeah, for that, it's also really fun.
Yeah. You go to a museum, you can grab palettes and paintings. That's cool.
Yeah, but I think like in museums, it's not always allowed to take pictures, unfortunately.
yeah, but if it is, no flash.
You can just like hide in the corner and just like let me use my Adobe Capture on this Basquiat painting.
Yeah, I feel that here in New York, most museums allow you to use cameras though, like if the flash is off.
Oh my God, I love the MoMA. I'm such a big fan. I also love their like shop that they have, the MoMA shop, where you can get all of these really cool like creative accessories and like books and like different types of pencils and art supplies and all that stuff. I really love it.
Yeah, I love a museum store. They're always like so well created, and it's awesome. Like,
yeah. Have you seen that Van Gogh like experience exhibition?
I heard of it, but I didn't go.
Some of my friends went, and apparently it's like the best thing ever. It's really nice kind of experience if you like, you know, having like projections and sounds and stuff like that. Cool. I would like to go, but I haven't gone yet.
Yeah.
Norsh is saying crazy and scary. I need it. Yeah. Cool. Ferry is saying I would try that for my future project, maybe school project that could be highlighted on my own gallery. Yay. Again, Monica is asking about your hardware, and you are using a Wacom tablet, right? The Intuos?
Yes, the Intuos, yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, I also use the Cintiq, but I mostly use the Intuos without a screen because it's very practical and it's small. The Cintiq is quite big, and I like that for some projects, but sometimes I just like to have like a small tablet that is, just feel faster, I think.
Yeah. All right, so we're jumping into fonts and it's getting really interesting, especially for me. Like, I'm obsessed with typography. So let us know, like, what's your decision-making process when, let's say, selecting fonts for an editorial cover or magazine cover?
Yeah, I mean, I never actually designed like a magazine cover, like I designed some like digital covers mostly, but it really I always just try to find something that I think that resonates with the project and that it could work well for like what I'm doing. So
what do you think in this case? Like, what's your thought process? We're thinking about no, we have this woman, and we're thinking about, cities, I guess. And
yeah,
like, what's your thought process there, the connection between selecting the right font and this cover, and maybe you have like a story in mind for this specific illustration?
Yeah, I'm just thinking of something that I think that would look good with the illustration right now, and I think like since we're talking about like Brazil, like and the titles in Portuguese, I think something that would match that also. I'm still choosing, but I'm definitely want something like contemporary. Not so traditional, I think. So like, because I think my illustration would go well with something more contemporary. But yeah, I'm not. I'm just playing around, I guess. So I don't have like a full concept for this illustration. I just like started drawing, like the illustration started to like appear.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm just.
Do you have any favorite fonts that you find yourself using many times?
Not really. I don't think I have like a lot of favorite fonts. I do love GT America, but I don't have like favorite fonts, to be honest. Like I just
whatever fits to the project.
Whatever fits the project. Yeah,
that's cool. Have you tried the fonts.adobe.com site?
Yes. I often browse for fonts there.
I was so excited when Photoshop and Illustrator finally showed the text in the actual typeface preview. I was like, yes, finally. I think this is so like essential when selecting fonts, that you can actually just like experiment and try fonts out, and not just by the name, but by the appearance of it, right? And by the style and character of it.
Yeah, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, that's super cool. And by the way, in Capture, you can also find the fonts that are on a specific graphic that you put into Capture. Just another tip. And you can find either the same or similar fonts, and then activate them from the font kit, the type kit.
Cool. Keep creating a new layer instead of selecting. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So if you all have any questions for Niege, let us know in the chat and we'll make sure to get those answered. And also for all of you who just joined us on YouTube, make sure to head over to be.net/live. This is where I'm going to be reading the questions, and this is where you can ask yours and participate in the chat. Cool. Lisette is saying, I went to a fashion exposition in a museum yesterday with beautiful embroideries. Should have used capture there. I missed my chance. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, that sounds exciting. I need to go visit museums more often. I'm in Denver, Colorado, and I feel like, I don't know, the art scene here is not as crazy. I lived in San Francisco for a while, and oh my God, that city is insane. I love it. I love the design and the art scene. I also love New York and Los Angeles.
Yeah.
For some reason, those are the places where there are most things happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to the MoMA during the pandemic, like when the museums reopened here in New York, like a limited capacity, and you had like to book a time, and it was so cool to go to the MoMA like on a weekday afternoon with like very few people in there, because normally it's packed, right? So it was like definitely a very memorable experience to just be able to enjoy the museum with like almost nobody. There were moments that I was like alone in certain rooms of the museum.
That's so cool. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that, like post, how do you call that, like after pandemic, and people aren't still going out as much, and you find, even if you're traveling, even if you're going like sightseeing, you find places being way more empty, and like you can actually pay attention to the you know, to the art or the architecture or whatever place you go when there's less people and it's less stressful. So that's awesome. And there was a question on the font that you've been using, and I think it's Harbor Medium, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, Ferry's saying, I remember back in the day when I thought that the dinosaur skeletons in the museum are still alive and can attack me whenever I move across them. That's hilarious. Cool. I see that now you're adjusting the illustration to the font and to the title of the magazine, right? So you want to create a contrast, and you want to make sure that the brown background kind of fills the whole area, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the cool thing about like, oh, hi, can you see my cat? Hi, Shakira.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Shakira.
So cute.
Yeah, I guess that's the good thing about, you know, drawing the model of the cover. You can just add more hair, you know. I mean, I guess with real people you can do everything with Photoshop. So but yeah, I'm playing around a little to create like a better composition.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, let us know in the chat if you all have any questions so far. And so thinking of, you know, the artboard size and the presets that you use for your artwork, how do you decide that?
It's according to the project. So usually, since this is not vector, and then you can't, you know, increase it without losing resolution, I try to work with bigger sizes. This one today is just 1080 per 1350. But I'm just doing, you know, like for screen. So usually I do like, if the client gives me certain dimensions, I usually go for that, like with the same proportions but a little bigger, just to make sure in case I need to reuse part of the illustration or the whole illustration and apply it to another piece, and I might need, maybe in the future I will need it bigger, then I already have it, so I don't have to deal with it, because that's the disadvantage of not working with vector files, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I always try to be ready and make everything like bigger than it needs to be, so I'm
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah, that's so true. That's awesome. And by the way, 1080 by 1350, I think it's the size of a vertical Instagram post. Am I right?
Yeah. So
Yeah, so
done
it's a
already.
perfect size. Sorry, what?
Yes, already done, for ready for Instagram.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you want to create a square post, it's 1080 by 1080. And I think the horizontal one would be 1080 by 1350 again. Just, yeah, 1350 in the width, I guess. Cool. Ferry's saying it looks vintage. Looks like it's from around the 80s.
Nice. Yeah, I love the 80s look,
Yeah.
the 80s fashion.
Yeah. I think that's the vibe that you were going for. You were also saying that your style is kind of a little bit vintage, right?
Yeah. I like to look into pictures of that time also, and other decades, but lately I've been looking a lot of like 80s pictures, uh, late 70s. Yeah, like we were talking about going back on time to New York in the 70s and the 80s, like I would love to go to like Studio 54.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that will be a dream. I also love the 80s movies. I think they're so fun.
Yeah.
Norsh is asking, is it a puppy in the earring? Yeah, I think it was a
Yeah.
poodle, right?
Yeah. So tiny. I didn't put much work in it because it's so tiny. Nobody's going to see it. So.
Yeah, but you can see on the hair and on the ears that it looks like a poodle.
Yeah.
Cool. So, do you have only one cat or do you have multiple?
I have only one, but in Brazil, I have two cats there with my mother in Brazil.
Awesome. Let us know in the chat if you all have pets. We had that pet conversation. I have a dog, and she kind of looks a little bit like the dog in the earring.
Oh, that's nice.
She's a white golden doodle, so she's a poodle mix.
What's her name?
Her name's Blondie.
Oh.
Do you know the band Blondie?
Yeah. I was going to ask if
Yeah.
it's like related to the band.
Yeah, and also usually golden doodles turn out, most of them are like brown from dark to light, but she turned out white. So that was another reason.
That's cute.
Oh, Fairy, I'm sorry. My poodle dog died.
Oh.
I'm sorry. It's, oh my God. I don't even want to imagine what it feels like. This is terrible.
Oh.
Cody has a dachshund named Vienna. That's so cool. And Jana has a cat. I know Jana's cat. I've seen it on pictures. Cool. Mercurial has 3 cats, Luma, Shasta, and Cinder. That's awesome. I grew up with cats. I love cats.
Yeah, me too. I always had cats in my house.
Cats are they're just so independent, right? They can just like do their own thing, but also come cuddle when needed.
Yeah. At some point when I was a kid, I had like 7 cats. And then some we had to donate because, they were kittens. But we kept most of them. Yes.
Awesome. That's so cool. Yeah, animals are awesome. They kind of teach you, that like life is actually not that complicated.
Yeah.
So now what you're doing, you're adding some like different tones of the same color, right? So I see you picked a green that's slightly different from the one that you've been using earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's very intuitive at this point, you know. So it's even like funny for me to like hear you like commenting on it, because I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I'm doing.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, that's so cool. What I like to do is, even in branding, when selecting a color palette, just picking a color and then going so when you get that like color diagram that goes from light to dark and to most color and least color, so there I can just like, I just like to like slide down the scale and just pick a darker or a lighter tone of that exact hue. And that's just a really good way to pick a color partner for a specific color. I use that a lot when I create color palettes and I want to, let's say, design tone on tone. So something similar to what you're doing right now, you're painting tone on tone, right? So that's a really helpful way to like, it's a really good way to find a partner for a specific color. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel at this point. You can just like grab whatever you have and just like change it up slightly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that. It makes me want to paint too. I haven't painted in so long, but I love it so much.
Yeah, I started painting more with the pandemic. Like, I had more time in my hands to do whatever. So I started painting more with oil paint. Yeah, I really like it. And it's very therapeutic.
That's so cool. The last time I think I painted was a portrait of my friend's dog. So I painted them like a huge portrait of their
That's so
dog
cool.
in a very similar style, like very abstract, and also using colors that aren't actually dog fur colors. So yeah, it's fun. It's been fun. Yeah.
Cool.
My friends loved it. They were like, I didn't even know you can paint. I'm like, yeah, that's something I do sometimes in my free time, but I don't have a lot of free time. So yeah, I love painting dogs, I think. Yeah. And then their family friends hired me to paint two of their dogs. So I painted those as well.
That's nice.
That was last year, I think. That was hilarious. And dogs are so funny, you know, they always have their own like expression on the picture.
Yeah, they have so much personality.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I should make a painting of Shakira one day, but I prefer to paint people in general, so
Yeah,
I still didn't get to it.
I love painting people. I remember at some point in my life, I found myself just like drawing eyes all the time, just eyes. So did you ever have anything like where you were like, oh, I love painting that, except, well, we know now that you love painting women, but or people in general, but like, was there anything else except for that in like your career or in the time that you've painted?
Like something else besides people that I really like to paint?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think like people, it's always been my favorite subject, and just also being inspired by fashion. It's always something that I always did. So since I was like a teenager, I would like buy fashion magazines and just like.
Oh yeah, I saw your post with a Gucci fashion a fashion collection that you've painted actually.
Oh,
It It was like GIF, like showing different.
Oh, right, yeah.
Can we take a look at that? I thought that was so cool. And yeah, I totally, I think that's why I was kind of asking, because I remember
Oops,
seeing
the
a lot of
wrong
fashion
type.
stuff. No worries. We're all good. We're all good. That was so cool. I really love that. I also love Gucci and their own, like the whole approach and fashion. Yeah, right there. That one. That was so cool. I love that.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm always looking at like fashion shows and editorials is like a big inspiration for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I was younger, I would like just copy, you know, the models' poses from fashion editorials and just draw on paper. Let me see if I have anything else that's very fashion. I don't know. This one, like, it feels a little bit like a fashion editorial and all those more like artistic fashion editorials.
And another thing that I wanted to talk about are those Instagram stickers that you've created. Can you tell us a little bit more about that project and, you know, how it came about and like what was the process there? And maybe you can show us something, some visuals.
So yeah, I created 2 of the Instagram stickers for Pride last year. There was me and other illustrators creating other stickers. So I created these 2. Instagram reached out to me to asking if I would like to create those. And yeah, for this one, my inspiration was like the Vogue balls. So like, you know how like the Vogue balls have like a jury, you know, of people that just vote, you know, for people that are competing and whatever. Are you familiar with Vogue in general or not?
Not so much. So I'm wondering like voting, like, can you tell us a little bit more about what exactly that is?
Yeah, like Vogue is like a type of dance, right? That was like very famous in New York in the 80s and like in the gay scene. So like there were the Vogue balls and like if people watch that series Pose, there's a lot about that there. So yeah, there's like all the juries and then they vote for the people competing. So I thought it would be fun to make like someone like just holding, you know, I made like sketches that there were like people like holding a grade, you know, 10 out of 10, you know, but then I just did like the little heart because, you know, pride and love and everything.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and I did like a sketch of like different characters with different like head pieces and stuff. So I ended up with this one, and it was everyone's favorite. And this one, because talking with Instagram, we thought it would be cool to include like someone in a wheelchair to so more people, you know, could relate to the stickers, because usually people with disabilities kind of are not included in representation during this time or other times of the year. So yeah, this was another cool one, and then I incorporated the LGBTQI plus flag to the wheelchair. Yeah, so it was super cool to see my work being shared so much, you know, social media, like people using it and people using it until this day.
I definitely recognize those. I looked at it and I'm like, I know those stickers. That's awesome. That's so cool. I'm glad you had the chance to like make that experience. And designing something for social media can be really challenging because you have to think of so many different groups of people who are going to be using that specific sticker, right?
Yes.
So it's really, really challenging task. And I think you did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, I was so happy to be invited to do it.
Awesome. I love it. I love how it comes out. You're bringing so much more complexion into the illustration now, right? It started pretty, like it pretty much started with this like really raw sketch, and then you've created the major background like shapes. You painted those, and then added some more outlines and strokes that are defining the different shapes a little bit better. And now you're really getting into adding more color tones, and then getting more into detail. And now you're really going into like the fine tuning and really like defining the three-dimensionality of it, right? Kind of giving it a little bit more dimensionality.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little bit more shadows and highlights.
Yeah.
Cool. I love it. I love watching the process, and I feel like every artist, designer, or illustrator has their own kind of approach and their own way of thinking. So for us, it's really, really interesting to see how you go about these things.
Yeah, I really like to watch the process of other artists too, because you can always learn something new.
Yeah, of course. And you can learn so much more about the person, about the way they work, right?
Yeah.
That's so cool. Love it. And can you share a little bit more about inspiration resources? Like, what are the platforms, let's say, online that you use to get inspiration? Or offline?
Yeah. Online, I guess, Instagram, obviously, Pinterest, like I have many boards on Pinterest, like this one. I just save a bunch of pictures that can be helpful later on. I like to look up like stock photography, like Adobe stock, and fashion tutorials of in like Vogue or other magazine websites. I also like to use like sometimes the websites of museums, like the Met, for example. They have like this huge online library, which is like super helpful.
What's it called?
The Met, the museum, the Metropolitan.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have like this huge online library that you can just like see paintings that they have in the museum, but then you can see them online, and objects and drawings and everything. So I like to look into those, and textiles.
So cool. I love that.
Yeah. So, but Pinterest is really cool because of the recommendations. Also, if they see that you're into really certain stuff, they recommend other stuff, and so and it works for me. I know that Behance also has a similar feature, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I also love is, so there is this color.adobe.com site where you can create color palettes and color combinations and stuff like that. And there is also one feature that you can use to create color palettes. And there you actually look for the different, let's say, keywords, and you can put in keywords, and then you'll get different kind of images and with extracted color palettes. So that's also really fun to use.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Right.
In
real life, I guess, the usual museums and books, magazines.
Yeah, that's so cool. I also find myself looking a lot at fashion and getting inspired by fashion. And not only in like the visuals, but also in the, for me, also the user experience is really important when I'm designing.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I'm a branding and packaging designer, and user experience is everything when you're designing, for example, packaging. How does somebody open it up? How do they like, what's the information that follows with which information? What's the
Mm-hmm.
hierarchy and so on?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I like to do is I like to take a look. For example, Gucci had this virtual experience. It was like an augmented reality um, shop that you can visit through your browser. So basically, it's kind of like walking through a building, through like a shop of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
But you can like literally like walk through it through your browser. I think it's called the Gucci Garden,
Oh.
and you can look it up. It's like kind of like a VR experience, but it's on the browser. And you can go to different shelves, and you can see all the different products of theirs, and you can click on any of the products, and then you can place them into your cart.
Oh, wow.
So basically, it's kind of like this enhanced shopping experience with an actual shop that they have created this experience around. So I thought this was like a really unique and interesting approach. And just like in general, their combination of that like retro and like very classic style and looks
Mm-hmm.
to the very modern customer in like very modern world, where like there are different trends and all that stuff, and different like color combinations that they kind of combine with those retro looks, which I think is super interesting to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, fashion can definitely be a big source of inspiration.
Yeah. Yeah, Gucci's awesome. They're doing so much cool stuff.
Yeah. And in terms of like sourcing inspiration, I think it's important to, or you can get a better kind of inspiration by staying away from your actual industry. So
Mm-hmm.
me, let's say I want to design like let's say a packaging for a specific brand. I should not go and look for packaging for similar brands. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, that's part of the research, to kind of research the competitors, but for me it will be important to get my inspiration from somewhere where can get a unique result.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be
Yeah.
something really far away from that industry to really keep it unique, right? Because in
Yeah.
the end, I have very similar kind of resources. I will have packaging, I will have color palettes, I will have fonts, but I won't get that. I mean, of course, packaging always carries a specific mood with it, but I feel like
Mm-hmm.
you can translate a specific mood even from things that are way far away from that specific object. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like, just getting inspiration doesn't have to be in that same industry. You can get inspired by other industries, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think like I love to look at illustrators' work online, but sometimes I try to not look too much or take a break from looking more, or,
Yeah.
because it I don't want to like to also affect my work too much, because in the end I want to make my own thing, and of course I'm not going to copy someone from just looking, but it's good to keep like sometimes a kind of fresh perspective on things without seeing too much references. So I think it's very important to seek for references like in your field, but also it's cool to like it's important to take a break sometimes, so you don't get like too much in your head, and you don't try to like, oh, everyone is doing this thing or that
Mm-hmm.
thing. So yeah.
That is so true. Awesome. And Cody posted the link into the chat if you want to check out the virtual tour Gucci Garden. Um, yeah, check it out. It's definitely a really cool experience. Cody's saying very true, Julia. I always try to get my inspiration from my art, from my other interests like gardening. That's so cool. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I think like everybody has their own hobbies and their own kind of things that they're doing besides of like doing art or design. Um, and those can be really good inspirational resources as well. So I love it. Cool. Oh man, Kyle's brushes are so awesome.
Yeah,
I love.
Kyle's doing God's work.
Yeah, so cool. And by the way, Kyle Webster, if you don't know him yet, he's like the brush master of Adobe, and he's
Yeah.
making a lot of brushes um for Photoshop, but also now for Fresco. It's the app that you can use on your iPad to paint, and we have some like watercolor brushes which are also so amazing. I don't even know how they do it, but it really feels like you're painting with watercolor. Have you ever tried those, Nish?
Yeah, I've tried some of those, yes.
Do you ever find yourself using watercolor in your artwork at all?
Not very much. I don't know. When I like something, then I'm going to stick with it for a while. I think so. I'm stuck now with the gouache uh, brushes, but
Awesome.
yeah, um, like
It's a
for
safe
this,
it's a safe way to achieve a good result, huh?
yeah, I guess so. But sometimes I do like to try something different. Like sometimes I like to also draw on my iPad, which the brushes that I use there are different. But for example, for this illustration that I'm doing right now, I basically just use the same brush the whole time. So
Yeah.
and that's pretty common, I guess, with my work. Sometimes I use like maybe one or two brushes, sometimes three, but not much more than that.
That's super cool. Have you ever sketched something on paper and then digitalized it and then continued working on it digitally?
No, I think no, because I think it's way faster to just do everything digital already. So I usually don't do anything on paper for my work. No, if I'm doing stuff on paper, usually is for my paintings.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's so awesome. Oh man, I'm so inspired to paint now. And we have about 6 minutes left. So, y'all, if you have any last minute questions, make sure to put them into the chat box. If you have been feeling shy all this time, make sure to put them into the chat. Otherwise, we're going to kind of wrap things up, kind of do the final strokes. Maybe are you going to be exporting this artwork today, or are you going to continue working on it tomorrow?
No, yeah, I'm going to export it today. Tomorrow, I'm going to start one from zero.
Oh, okay. So we'll have two illustrations by the end of these two streams. That's awesome. I'm excited. And so, what's the plan for tomorrow? Can you tell us a little bit more about what you're planning on doing tomorrow?
So for tomorrow, I think to do something a little different, I'm going to do a full body illustration, which I hope I will have time to finish, but if I don't, then, we'll be almost there. But I think I will have time to finish like a full body illustration.
Awesome. Yeah, and in any case, make sure to follow Niege on her Instagram, and you will see all of that illustration in final version. I'm guessing you were planning on posting those, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you will see those on your mobile device, live in action on her Instagram. Just make sure to follow her. Cool. And there's another question. Jenny, first of all, is saying, love watching your process. Thanks for sharing. And Cesar is asking, can you tell us what font it is?
It's Harbor.
Harbor Medium, I think.
Medium, yes.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So it's Harbor. Awesome. Yeah, I think this is coming out great. And I also love that you reused one of the colors that you used in your artwork in the cover title. So
Oh yeah.
repurposing color kind of just makes it more cohesive, right? It makes it look like everything belongs together.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of
Very
part of
nice.
your identity too, also in the end.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
that's awesome. And so tomorrow we're going to have a similar workflow, right? So you're going to start in Illustrator and then go into Photoshop?
Yes, same thing. But then tomorrow I'll probably just spend less time on like little details like I'm doing right now. Because I'm doing like the whole body. So yeah, it's going to be a little different.
Cool. And so one quick thing also, Jenny is saying poodle the most sassiest part of the illustration. Yeah, poodles are kind of like, they're very elegant, right? They're like
Yes.
the supermodels of the dog world.
Yes.
They have those like really long legs and very elegant. I love poodles. I think they're so awesome. Can you show us real quick how you export, or are you going to save it first? Oh yeah, you
I'm
should
just
save it.
because
Please
I
save
didn't
it. Okay, so first of all, we're gonna save, and to make sure, save it like right in the beginning of your artwork.
Which I didn't do, so don't do that.
I forget. I find myself forgetting it all the time. And the problem is also, so me working in Illustrator, if you don't save your artwork, even if you have the recovery on, so file recovery, if you're, for example, your computer turns off for no reason or the program crashes, the file recovery only works if you actually save the file. So if you haven't saved it, then it's gone.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm
And
going
that's
to.
yeah. Okay. And that's why like these days we have the cloud documents, right? So if you have started your design, for example, Illustrator on the iPad, or maybe made a painting in Fresco, your files will be saved as cloud documents, right? So those are safe, those are good. And if you start working and if you have your document as a cloud document, like it will be safe too. So that's just another way to make sure that works. All right, let's export.
Yeah, let's export for web.
Awesome. Yeah, and exporting for web. Can you tell us a little bit more, like why exactly that?
I just think it's because it's like optimized, so then it's like going to be like a good file size and good also resolution for web. So basically that's why I chose that. Since here my goal is to just post online, so yeah.
And there the resolution should be either 72 points per pixels per inch or 150. So I always like to put it even 150, but you won't need the 300 pixels per inch. You won't need that. 300 is when you're exporting for print. So yeah. Oh my gosh. This was so much fun. Thank you so much for sharing all of your amazing talent and skills. And we all are super, super excited for tomorrow and for part 2. And we're going to be here same time, same place with Niege Borges.
You got it.
And so join us tomorrow. Niege, any last words?
No, it's been a pleasure to be here with you, and I'm excited to do it again tomorrow.
Awesome. Everybody, thank you all so much for joining us today, and make sure to stay tuned for the program. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.